Kristocentric station,
the Kingdom Promoter.
Well, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. Whatever's in store for me, it's gonna be nice. It's crazy right now, Lord, but that's when you shine. I can't start shouting, knowing it's gonna be nice. Well, you never promised me that my days would be problem-free, but you did promise to always take care of me. Right now it seems that my troubles will never end. I know you promised to be my closest friend, and it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. Whatever you got in store for me, Lord, it's gonna be nice. It's crazy. It's crazy right now, Lord, but that's when you shine. I can't start shouting. It's gonna be nice. Well, I gotta remind myself daily who lives inside of me. And when I stay close to you, close to me, you're gonna be no more crying about my situation. I know what I gotta do. I gotta pray, gotta trust, gotta believe. Depend on you. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. Whatever you got for me, it's gonna be nice. It seems crazy right now. It's crazy right now. But I know you shine in the midst of it. Lord, I can't start shouting. I'm gonna shout right now. It's gonna be nice.
Well, it's another Wednesday, and we're so excited to be back again. Welcome to the Life and Grace Show with Karis and Eva on Kristocentric Station. I wonder how your week has been. Let me start with Eva. Eva, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very
Awesome.
pleased. I'm actually fully recovered now
Tell me,
from
fully recovered
thing that's been
from...
going around. So I feel
Yes, you
very blessed.
managed. You did.
I'm
I mean, you
fully
mentioned
recovered.
it. You mentioned that there was a bug going around, right?
Yes, going around my family. Came
Oh,
all the way from Germany.
sorry about that, but I'm happy that you're feeling much, much better. So, how's your day been? What have you done today?
Well, today has been mass cooking day
Okay.
because I have my father-in-law around, and we're planning a lot of trips. Tomorrow we're going to the beach. And so, in order to ensure that the cooking isn't in the way, I just cook an awful lot of food that could feed England, basically.
Oh, I better get a flight and come over. That's what I should do.
How was your week? How was your day?
Oh my goodness. So, the summer is over. I really had to be very measured so I don't put up all those sad TikToks that talk about when your summer is over and you're going back to work. But I think I balanced it well. So the summer's over, so I went back to work on Monday. But this week is awesome because it's staff development week. So just a lot of training, and it's been good. Stretching me a bit, but also very good. I've been nervous, let me be truthful about it. A new start of the working year. Your mind is thinking about all the things that you have to put together, strategize, plan, and you're hoping that you have the grace to do even better than you did last year. So that's been a bit heavy on me. But it's Wednesday, and you know we were born on Wednesday, right? So one can't be really sad on a Wednesday, can we?
Wednesday Bones. That's why we're such a cool duo.
I tell you. So if you're just tuning in, whether you are listening through radio, whether you are online, whether you are live with us, welcome to the Life and Grace Show. Today we're talking about a very interesting topic. We're talking about fun without guilt and shame. So yeah, that's today's topic, and I want to tease Eva because Eva pulled some Bible verses for us, and at the top of the list is, let me read it out so that you guys know that there's a reason why I'm teasing her. Ecclesiastes chapter 2 verse 24. There's nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw that it was from the hand of God. Eva Mbala, this is how you're establishing the topic.
I know, with food. We're starting out with food. And do you know what, Karis? I went through a lot of the scriptures, and there's quite a lot of talk about eating, food, drink. It's no wonder that every time there's a celebration of any kind, there's always food. I mean, God Himself is admonishing us. He's, encouraging us to eat, drink, and be happy.
Hey. I'm waiting for my spirit.
And I'm here to feed everybody.
I know. Well, okay, so let's talk a little. Let's centralize the topic. Let's put it into the context why we think it's an important topic. Before someone quickly says that these girls, they're just going to have fun today. Fun without guilt and shame. We are very much aware, and we mingle with a lot of Christians, whether it's young ladies, young men, older people who are married, elderly people who are doing excellent in all their fields. They are working hard at home. They are taking care of family. They are working very hard in the office. They are achieving goals. They are working and doing what they have to do. But at the same time, I've also noticed that there almost seems to be a subtle frowning upon when one of us hard workers, who's also a Christian, happens to be having some fun. It's like, don't you have any hard work to do? I mean, you're having too much fun. And maybe it's just me, but over the years, I have gotten to a point where sometimes I really think about, when should I post that picture? Should I actually post that picture? Because you don't want anyone to think you are quote unquote unserious. And so we're thinking about it, and we're like, no, having fun does not equalize unserious and not achieving goals. And so we wanted to look at it from a biblical perspective. So we want to look at what our definition of fun is. Then we'll talk about a little bit about the guilt and shame. And then maybe we can share some ideas on how we can have that fun. So when we're defining fun, Eva, what for you is fun? What I mean, you can talk about when you were younger and now. What are the things that you define as fun?
For me, fun is something that I enjoy doing, and there isn't a lot of effort. So it makes me happy, it gladdens my heart, makes me laugh, and something that when I'm doing, I lose track of time. I actually need to remember to go back to the serious things. So as a child, I do remember playing alone quite a lot. I was one of these loners. Just creativity. I could just create a scene of a drama. I'm talking to one doll, and the doll is talking to the other. Lost in my own lullaby world. And at a certain age, I enjoyed reading a lot. And sometimes I remember making 2 or 3 trips to the library. At some point, it was almost like a competition on who has gotten farthest in the reading. There was, I don't know if you remember this, Karis. Do you remember Sweet Valley High and University?
I remember Sweet Valley High, Sweet Valley University. Of course, Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew.
yeah. And these books were numbered. So, you had to read 1, 2, it just went on and on. It wasn't just to see who went farthest, but it was also because the story kept building up, and I wanted to know what's going to happen. I just couldn't go to sleep without thinking about what was going to happen in the next, book. So yeah, these are some of the things I enjoyed doing. But of course, these days, what I enjoy doing are quite different. We'll come to that.
Okay, awesome. I'm trying to think what I loved. Okay, I must say, when I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time in front of the radio, listening to the radio, listening to songs. Of course, you know, there was the age where it was all about the croony, oh, and break my heart and all those songs. But I loved listening to music, and I loved radio as well. What else? Good food. Let's not lie about that. Good food is always good. And I can go to a restaurant on my own and just enjoy. It's lovely to have people with me. I mean, that's the best, but I don't mind taking myself out on dates. That's perfectly fine. I like good movies, like epic movies. The movie that has a good storyline, and then I walk away and I'm like, oh, I'm really thinking about that. So, those are some of the things that I consider fun. So, Eva, won't you say anything sporty? Won't you say like going to exercise? I mean, please redeem our image.
These days, yes, it's changed, like I said. So there's something else I forgot to add. I did love singing a lot, and I remember my dad used to get me microphones at every stage. I kept graduating from one microphone to the other, and sometimes he would sit down and listen to me perform a song. I even took part in Fan World, which is not the national Fan World. We had our own version in the north in Bogota. I would practice my songs to him, and then perform them. And one of the things that drew me towards music, I believe, was my dad, because back in the day, long before I was born, he owned a disco.
He
So
did.
yeah, he had all the cassettes, the reels, and anything that came out, he had it. I remember, as you know, my husband is German. We talk about childhood, and it turns out that things that were cool and in a certain age in his life was the same in my age, and I found that so fascinating that we lived on completely different continents at a very different time, and we were jamming to the same songs around the same time, and playing similar games. So yeah, these are some of the things. But these days, like I said, my hobbies have changed drastically. I love sports. Yes, guys, let me redeem us.
Okay, thank you for redeeming us. Tell us a bit about sports.
I love going bike riding either on my own or with the children. And I love going for runs, and it's so liberating. There's something so freeing about running. I love it so much that when I'm not running and others are running, I get what's known as jogging envy.
Eva,
Wherever I'm
wow.
at, I wish I was the one running. I just want to stop what I'm doing and then get on with it. Yeah, so these are the sports I like: walking, running, riding my bike. But the other things I also enjoy is watching my children enjoying their hobbies. Is this strange?
No, 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 no. It gives your soul joy.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
that's a good one. That's a good one. So yes, I mean, if I say exercise, I would say power walking. I don't get to do it as often as I want, but I do like walking. Jogging and running, no, Eva, you'll be on your own on that one. But I can do power walking with you. Now we want to chat a bit about the guilt that is associated often with fun. We're talking to believers, so we can talk from all different angles. Let me start with the sense that you are wasting your time, or the feeling that you think people are looking at you and saying you're wasting your time. Have you ever felt that way, Eva? How do you navigate that?
Yes, I felt that way a lot. I've even had some faces thrown at me. Hey, you doing, Papa? What pair grow, Papa?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you like having too much fun, and you're laughing too much. As if it's wrong to laugh, and sometimes one of the worst ones for me is when someone throws in salt and perishing, and you're here
Aish.
laughing and playing around.
Wow. 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 That's a
Yeah.
tough one. How have you dealt with it?
I don't. I wouldn't say I remember how I dealt with this, because this must have been like going days, very, such a long time ago. We're still on fire for God. It's quite different. We have family, we go to church together, we have our devotions together. It's quite, the dynamic is different in how, in our walk with, well, personally, my walk with God. But in those days, it was full on. I started my day at sometimes 4 a.m. on the field praying, and sometimes I had to attend two prayer meetings because I was part of everything. The Marco, the choir, the prayer team, and so each group had a prayer meeting. In the afternoon, you take a break and go and pray. There was I had meetings Sunday to Sunday, and so these were different times. I was also in a lot of leadership positions, and so I was surrounded by other people who were just as on fire for God as I was, and so um, there were times, just wanted to do something fun, something I enjoyed doing other than going to win souls or going on missions or singing with the choir. And sometimes you have these things thrown at you, as if to say that at every waking moment, you should be about God's business, not doing anything that's interesting. And sometimes it wasn't even any of the extreme things I say extreme things we've discussed, singing, dancing, going to events. All the events I went to at university were Christian events. They were all very serious. Either I was emceeing or I was preaching or I was doing something, in one capacity or other. And so these times of having fun were basically just, when you felt carefree and you just laughed and wanted to joke around and not preach or talk about the word or pray. And these are the times, I had this kind of comment. So yeah, very different time, I would say.
Very, very interesting. And I think it's maybe our theology of understanding who God is. Maybe sometimes we feel that God is just always serious and he's not happy when we're smiling, but that's not true. I mean, if you look at the beauty of the earth, I don't think it'll be this beautiful from someone who does not enjoy and celebrate and love beauty. And then we look at Jesus, who, of course, he was also accused of the same. He also spent too much time, quote unquote, chilling. And yet, look at how serious he was seriously at his father's business whilst he was, quote unquote, chilling with whether it's unbelievers or eating some food with his disciples. I mean, he was asked, why are your people not fasting and praying a bit more? That kind of thing. So I think that sometimes there's that false understanding that we are only spreading or talking about Jesus when our face is very serious or we are shabaying in deep prayer or something like that. But if the Bible calls us to be salt and light, then I think that in my smiling and in my hopefulness and I like to say I'm childlike. In my 40s and yet very childlike. Not childish, but childlike. So I have a wonder and a joy at the world and what God does. And so, yes, I can respond with a twirl, or I can respond with laughter or jumping or one of those things, which is very childlike. But I know that God can use that to draw people because I have heard people talk about it from many, many years ago, where I was told that use your charisma, your charm to draw people to Christ. And that's what I try and do, whether it's on radio, on TV, or interacting, whether training or leading in any capacity or counseling, any of the giftings or the skills that I'm giving. I do it naturally. So this thing of trying to put round holes in square pegs or square pegs in round holes, I mean, we really need to stop trying to say that the Christian character looks like this. This is the perfected Christian who's sullen and has a somber look, and when they're coming out, yes, souls are perishing, and we must care about that. And we must use everything that is at our disposal to draw people to Christ. But I just remembered something. A couple of years ago, when I'd broken, the first time I broke my leg, it happened twice. The first time I broke my leg, when I was in cast, I was still coming to Sunny. And I remember one of the people who worked at Sunny FM just coming up to me and talking about how she was just blown away at my joyful state in spite of what had happened to me. The fact that I could still come and smile and chat and do stuff. And that's a testimony. So this looking sad because you're having fun, I don't ascribe to it at all. At all. I wonder, one of the things I've struggled with is social media and the balance between my personal life and all the other hats I carry. And so, how are you able to share of yourself, minister to others through your writing, your sharing, and not feel that people are looking at you and judging you?
That's a really difficult one, Karis. And I personally have struggled, still struggle with that, because I personally I see Facebook as a place to do fun and to do my businesses. And I do not have a serious Facebook. You know, you will not go and find any serious writings and stories and so on. It will mostly be I'm going to the park or I'm having fun. It is mostly snippets. Um, One of the things I struggle with, Karis, is when to post something joyful in with the knowledge that other people might do something difficult. You know, when you scroll through your feed, you will see someone has just lost a mom, a dad, a child, or they are going through a very difficult time because some people do pour out their hearts and talk about things that are quite tough going in their lives on Facebook. And in that moment, you're about to. And sometimes I finish posting my fun stuff already, and then I see it, and I think, well, I don't know how this person's going to feel if they see that I'm having such a lovely time. But we've talked about this before, Paris, and just because someone is posting pictures of fun times doesn't mean they don't have anything going on that isn't that great in their lives. I personally, I hardly would rant or shade or say anything real that's actually going on in my life, aside those happy snippets, that I put up. And that's just a personal choice.
Such an interesting one. When you talk about the cycles in life and balancing it off, um, it's it's something I've also had to think through because you're right. We have so many circles that we are part of. You could be celebrating. It could be a very good day for you, but it could be a tough day for someone else. I was just thinking this year, for example, that my prayer and hope is in a year or two, I'll go back to celebrating my brother Fifi on his birthday, right? Because around that time is very tough. So on the 20th is my daughter's birthday. So I gather up all my joy and I put up those posters. The next day was the day my dad went to glory, and that happens to be Fifi's birthday. So for the last 3 years, it's been a more sober day for me. But I know that, as healing comes and time passes, it doesn't mean I don't appreciate him or I don't love him, you know. But how many other people are going through that and they don't have that explanation? At least Fee knows. And Karis probably still said a prayer for me, even though my poster is not on her status or something. She loves me. But what about another friend who doesn't know what's going on? And even if it's not extreme things like that, there's so many times where in the moment I want to be celebrating this person or putting this poster, but something else comes up and I'm not able to do it. I've learned to give people slack when they do it for me. And also I'm learning to give myself that room and realize that I can't do everything. And so if you're close enough to me, at some point we'll meet up and then I will connect with you and I'll say, hey, by the way, happy belated birthday. Was thinking about you. This was what was going on, And so that's how I deal with that one. And balancing. As for my daughter and my dad those days, it's a tough one because it's a quick switch around. It can be the 19th and you're a bit sober already, but then you're like, hey, tomorrow's Yaira's birthday, snap out of it. Then 21st, you're back to thinking, I miss daddy, and that's how life is. Another aspect of this whole social media thing is personal life stroke work relationship. Now, unless you decide that because the place I work with did not give me this phone, therefore they have no right to quote unquote bagging me on it, or whatever I put on, it's my personal space. If you do that, you might decide that, you know what, I'm blocking everyone on my status. You can send me WhatsApp messages, but you can't see what I am celebrating. But you spend so much time of your life with them too. They become a part of you, and you want to share. So one of the things I learned, even before statuses and stuff, was knowing when the working day is. I remember when I was in the corporate world, between certain hours, even if I see the phone call, I just will not pick. I might send you a message and say, let's chat after 4:30 or 5, because I also wanted to respect that timeline. So now I do my very best to compose the posts, and I like elaborate posts. I like posts that talk about leadership and a lot of stuff. So I'll compose it and try and post it before my working day. If I don't catch that window, then I'll probably try at lunchtime. If I don't get that, then it's probably that I'll post after 5:30. Because it's also some very interesting way for you to be supposed to be at a work doing some serious business, and yet they can see that you are on Facebook and all over chatting. I know we can multitask, and there's nothing wrong with taking a 5-minute break in your hour of hard work, especially when you are achieving those results and goals. People will realize that, okay, once in a while she's on Facebook or social media and she seems to be laughing, but guess what? She actually gets the work done and we can see the results. So it's not a big deal. But it's such a bad testimony if you are never meeting deadlines, you're never meeting goals, you're never finishing projects, and yet you are all over everywhere. So that's how I try and do my best to balance. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's another sensitive one, and it's not even on just. I mean, what you mentioned is important to understand the timings. Be careful when you do it, because you never know who's going to pull you on something, and it's just best to err on caution. The other thing is how much of your life do you want your work colleagues to know about? There are times when I kind of regretted adding some work to my Facebook. And also when I moved on from one employment to the other, even though I'm not going to say anything per se about the old job, which, like I say, I don't say anything personal deep on my statuses or Facebook in general. But it's just there's times I just want to have that extra privacy with the people who are my core friends. But then you've added all these people who at some point you were just excited or you thought, okay, it's all right, I'll accept this request. And then at some point you just think, when I feel that I'm thinking, what's this person going to think of this? That's when I realize I really shouldn't have added this person. But that's the point when it gets a bit complicated. What should I post knowing that people at my workplace can see? Am I having too much fun? Are they going to be a little jealous? And there are times they like to bring things up, work. Oh, so you went on holiday again? Nice. I've seen your new life. Oh, that looks fancy. And you just think, okay,
is this genuine?
It's bordering around flattery and so on, but I would have rather these things remain personal. So I find myself sort of around these stages at some point in time. And so while I'm trying to have fun, there's that guilt of who's looking, who's thinking of this, and so on and so forth.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And these struggles that we are going through in trying to know what is apt, what is proper, when the good timing is, I guess it's a small function of that bigger picture where you are salt and light to the world. So not that there's a heavy burden on you to be perfect, quote unquote, but you have to be thoughtful in your actions. And I really loved it when you talked about seasons, and Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 to 8 talks about, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. So we really need that wisdom from God to know that this is the right thing and this is not the right time. As for me, please don't follow my social media pictures. Rarely do I put anything that I am doing in that exact moment. I'm one of those people who bring it 6 months later, 3 months later, 2 weeks later. And it's
2 years later.
2 years later, Eva, you're right. 2 years later, I will now bring it. And part of it is also wanting to savor things privately first. Like, I like to enjoy the moment privately and then find the words. I am deeply, I feel things deeply. And if I want to put it out there, I want to put the words that will convey some of the complexity. And sometimes I'm not able to do it in the spur of the moment. So I don't know how I'm doing with this generation and social media. Don't worry, Fifi will help me with that. Let's take a music break. We want to take our first song. So enjoy this one. And when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stick and stay with us. This is the Life and Grace Show with Karis and Eva. Fun without guilt and shame.
Cast your burdens onto Jesus, for he cares. Oh yes, he does.
You're listening to Kristocentric Station.
My God, yeah, I go cast my burdens onto you forever. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his name. My God, yeah, I go cast my burdens.
So that is Joy or Joa. Joa with Don't Worry. That's a lovely one. Don't worry. We're not saying life is not complicated. We're not saying that there are not a lot of things going on. But don't worry. Don't worry. So, Eva, whilst we were listening to this beautiful music, Fee and I were chatting a bit in the studio. And there's another level of this social media thing. I'm trying to find the right terminology to describe what it is. But let me say withholding love. Yeah. I've noticed also that sometimes you feel like the verse that says, should you put your pearls before people who will not appreciate it? You wonder, if he's laughing, but he knows that I haven't quoted the verse fully. I have edited the verse. Because there's that, I don't want to call it fear, but there's that realization that sometimes rejection in the sense that there's no response, there's no feedback from people who you believe are your inner core, for example. So it's like a post is put up which you see and you think this is really awesome, and it's from a friend, an acquaintance, someone who you admire. I'm beginning to think that if I can take 10, 15 minutes, no, not 15 minutes, let's say 15 seconds to look at your status, and I think that the content is great. This is another sign that you think the content is great. You actually take a screenshot of it and you're like, this is really cool, I'll use it one day. Then give feedback to the person and say, hey, you know what? That's an awesome quote. But people do a lot of status scrolling and give no feedback. And Fee and I were discussing whether sometimes there's the sense that if I like it or share it or comment on it, your head will become big. And so I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to withhold my approval or my affection or my celebration so that you don't begin to think that you are all that. All that and a bunch of roses. You're not that deep, you know? So from a Christian perspective, as the person who is posting, you need to decide that this content is godly, it glorifies God, and it will help someone out there. You must also decide that sometimes I will get a response, sometimes there will be absolute silence. But once I've done what I believe the Holy Spirit said I should do, I'm good with that. And then you must also accept the fact that some days you feel almost rejected because there's no response. But you must also decide that that does not mean that I now stop liking and appreciating other people. It takes some amount of growth and maturity to get to that. Have you ever seen or experienced that?
Fact is, Karis, because sometimes people would engage with a post. They might see something. It could be inspirational, funny, and something that's blessed them, but they forget to respond. I'm guilty of that. Okay, there are times I would see something and think, oh, this is really funny, this is great, and I'll even copy the link and share with someone close and would laugh about it, but I completely forget where I even got it from. I mean, today, for example, I was reading about these Wanderlust. They traveled
Yes,
from
yes, yes,
Accra
yes.
from Ghana to London. I've been following the story and I found it interesting. So today there was a post and I started. It was a very long post, and I'm not one who goes
Eva,
on to
yes,
read,
don't
but it
worry,
was
I
that
understand.
interesting. I nearly got to the bottom of it because they were giving awards to different categories of events. Some countries that treated them well, some countries that didn't treat them well, and it was a funny post. But then you could see that there was some innuendo and so on, and I thought it was fun. I nearly got to the bottom, and somehow my finger touched something. All the trouble with modern phones. You can't you can't just move anyhow. The post disappeared. And believe you me, Caris, I do not know what number one is because I don't even know where I was reading this from. It was a friend who shared something, but I can't even remember which friend shared it. So I could have finished reading this post and just not like it or comment. There are also times um, and I'm not saying this is me, but you don't want to become a serial liker. If
Mm-hmm.
someone is sending, posting every few minutes, and you're just there liking and commenting, and you don't want the person to think that you are, what's the word? Not that you're stalking them, but you're just all over the place. Give them some space. So you sometimes look and then just go past. I'm not saying this is my personal reason, but for me personally, it's mostly just looking at a post and forgetting. But sometimes I do remember to like or just say something.
I totally understand. And yes, I agree with you. I mean, another thing is how much time are you spending on social media? So I think, I think it's balance. I think once you know that you didn't intentionally walk away with that green eyed monster called jealousy in
Hmm.
your eyes, and then intentionally decide that, you know what, I'm just going to ignore this person, it's cool. Sometimes you forget. As you said, sometimes things just disappear from your screen, and sometimes
Yeah.
you want to come back to it. So that's, I think that's really, really cool. Now, the other,
There,
go ahead.
there's another reason. Let me quickly add. Sometimes if I disagree with something and it's going to cause
Ah,
an
please bring it
online
out, Eva.
argument,
Bring it out,
I much
Eva.
rather scroll on.
Non-confrontation. Well, you need wisdom. What is worth your going on social media and saying, you know what, I totally disagree with you on this one. These are my biblical verses. This is my backing. This is why you are wrong. And on rare occasions, it's worth doing that. But on other occasions, you're right, holding your peace. And sometimes I hold my peace until I meet you in person, and then I can
Hmm.
engage, because it's not everything that I want to engage on social media. Besides, you know that the deepest form of communication is where it's active communication. You can see the person's
Yeah.
face, their body language, the intonation of their voice. There's a hand that touches your shoulder, so you realize it's not that deep. But when it's written on social media, they might be saying the exact same thing, but without those extra gestures, you think that the person is being disrespectful and hates you. So I can totally agree with that one too. Yeah. Now, what about the other extreme? Guilt, which is because what are you doing and what are you considering fun? So today's topic, we're talking about fun without guilt and shame. And we've talked a lot about guilt from who's observing, how are you using your time, are you being a good steward of your time, what's the content of the stuff that you're putting out there, what is the fun stuff that is healthy for you, it brings your family together, you're enjoying it, and the fact that biblically it's perfectly fine to have fun in the season, in the right time. But there's also some fun that, as a believer, if you're stepping into that realm, then you might feel guilt because the next morning, the next day, the next hour, you would now have, especially since you're branded with this beautiful person called the Holy Spirit, your heart will tell you that that was not the best way of using time. So there might be things that have to border on sexual sins, things that border on excessiveness. Let me start with this funny one: excessive coffee drinking. I know you wanted me to say alcohol. No, let's say excessive anything in excess, you know, or
Yes.
binging on your favorite series, you know, as there's a
Oh
time
yeah.
and season for anything. But if you are up till 3 a.m., your head is hurting, your eyes are blood red, but you spend the whole time binging, and then HS tells you that, we have a date at 5 a.m., and because of this, you're not going to wake up. That's another time where you feel guilty. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with watching series and enjoying good quality films, but there are seasons where I know I overdid it, where you finish season 1, 2, and 3 in one night. Hey, how did you do that? you know so that might elicit some guilt, or going to places where, hey, you're dressed in a way, and you're anxious that nobody knows you there from either church or your ministry or any of those places. And instead of enjoying your time, you are looking left, right, and center because you don't want to be spotted. um I I I I can't deal with guilt. I love that free heart and spirit. So I want to go to places where I'm cool. And if you see me holding something that looks like a cocktail, it's delicious. I will not be worried because it's likely it's a mocktail, So no sense of, oh my gosh, was that Eva we spotted, in this place or in that place. Yes. Any other ideas on guilt and shame?
Oh yeah, I remember when I was at university in London, going to a party, and it was just an all student party, but I left the party feeling like I'd just been polluted, honestly. I'd never attended a party like that. And I remember I went with Sasha. This was a student from our campus who lived out off the campus and invited a lot of people. And he felt really uncomfortable as well. And we both said, no, this is not our type of party. And we just felt like fishes out of water. There was a lot of drinking games and very bad jokes that you just pretended were funny, but they were not funny because it meant nothing to us. And there was nothing fun about that.
Mm.
That is fun with guilt because, well, first of all, I didn't find it interesting at all. And I just, like you rightly said, Karis, it was very excessive. They were just drinking weird stuff. And luckily, this was not a crowd that did drugs or anything. But it was just not, it just didn't feel great. There wasn't any proper socializing. The jokes were not clean. And yeah, that's not a place my brother and my sister we should find ourselves
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this is not to say that we are elitist and therefore we don't mingle with people and therefore we don't go to people's events. I am a believer that if I have a friend and they have a program and I have the time and I want to be there, I'll go there. But I would behave in a way that I can walk home and go to bed, have my bath and sleep and be happy. I wouldn't engage in things that I would feel bad about. I would
Yeah.
I would choose what songs that my spirit is comfortable with, and I can get up on the dance floor and dance to. And then there's some that I would feel are beyond my level, you know, childlike Karis. Yes, I accept it. I just don't want to dance to that one. So I'll sit. I'm likely to engage in conversation with people because I love that one on one. I love quality, in depth. How are you doing? What's going on with you? How can I help you? That kind of thing. So I'll connect one on one. And that's what I'll do. But I'll not also walk around with an air of, oh my gosh, you guys are just so terrible, you know, and looking down your nose on people. That's not necessary. But you must also know your bounds and what you're really happy with. I always used to tease that, you know what, I am so high on life that I am perfectly fine having a non-alcoholic drink because the way I'm bouncing, you even think that what is in my drink is more than yours because the energy levels already exist, you know. Um, but yeah, so that's without guilt and feeling shameful about this stuff.
Karis, I just want to read a scripture,
Mm-hmm.
and this one is from. Did you not? No, let me leave this one. Psalm 149, verse 3. It says, "Let them praise his name in the dance. Let them sing praises unto him with the timbrel and the harp." And again, like we said before, a lot of the scriptures about eating, being happy, being joyful, and this one talks about music. Karis touched a little on music. It's a natural thing and it's given to us by God. We just come alive, and when there's music, we want to naturally dance, and it's okay for us to do so as believers. However, um, there are levels, like Karis rightly said. There are songs that when starts playing, you feel there's something clogging in your heart and your system. There are places you go to and you're not in control. You cannot turn off the sound, you know. I've been in situations where I kind of wanted to control what was coming out of the speakers, and it wasn't possible. I went to the nail place, and they were playing some, songs that I just felt were a bit much. And I said, "Can you kindly change this place a little bit?" There are times, you wouldn't get that happen for you, and you just pray that, God will keep you and that you'll be okay. But we're talking about intentionally placing yourself in situations that you leave the place feeling like you need to go and soak yourself in some holy water. You need to be rinsed out. So yeah, God approves of us dancing, singing, and being happy. But of course, in all things we do in moderation and all in this spirit of God.
Yeah, when you were talking, you prompted me on two things. First, I mean, I can't wait to get to heaven when it is time, when I've done everything I'm supposed to do on earth. Don't want no enemy saying that Kara says she wants to go to heaven. Let me help them today. No, when I'm done with my assignment, I can't wait to get to heaven at that time. But I just look forward to the diversity and the different ways in which people will be glorifying God. So, like the Germans with their engineering and their efficiency, it will also glorify God. Then we Africans will come and do our dancing, it will glorify God. The Spanish people might come and do salsa or singing, the Italians with their soprano voices and their altos, all of it to the glory of God. So, at the end of the day, the dancing does not have a problem per se. I mean, some people have the art and the ability to dance. It's a gift because your body does not move that way, and you look at it and you admire and you're like, wow, this is let me just give a shout out. Many years ago when I was in university, my friend LP Cherish Tengabo Bibina and we were in this campus group called Fellowship of Christian Students, and God put it so hard on our heart to have this festival celebrating dance, poetry, music, and everything. And we called all our friends. We had friends who were African Americans who could do stepping and, gambut dancing. And we had friends who were Spanish and they were so brilliant at salsa. Now, salsa is one of those dances that, especially if it's a male and a female, there's a lot of movement going on. But we had this friend who was just like, when you see her, she's graceful. And I remember that we were getting our church to come and sit. So we got our head pastor and the other pastors to come and sit in the program. And I must say that the salsa dance was one that I was like, yeah, are they going to say that we've stepped overboard? But her name was Gabriela. Gabriela is so beautiful. She has 7 kids now. Lovely lady. Gabriela and Dean, when they danced, even our head pastor stood up and clapped. And I was like, oh, cool. Because it showed that they appreciated the fact that this was different.
Yeah,
but,
a gift.
it was a gift. So, I mean, yes, dance to the glory of God, but let it indeed be to the glory of God. The second thing that you said, which really stood out to me, was intentionally controlling what you can control. Now let me step into this arena. Children's parties. When you are the parents and you have invited other kids as well as your colleague parents to come to a child's party. How do I say this? It's a child's party and you can choose the songs that play. Sometimes you go to a kid's party and some of the music is quite heavy. Let me just put it that way. So you now have little children dancing in certain ways because that's what they've seen on TV. That's the video they've seen on TV on how you dance to that song. You have a choice, but you have to be intentional. So it probably means you're either choosing a DJ who you talk to and you tell them that, hey, Masa, I'm paying you. That's the other thing with weddings. After 2 a.m. weddings change. Anyway, You talk to the DJ and say, this is our playlist, this is the zone in which I want you to stick, you know. Or if you are the parents who are leading the program, it means preparing the playlist. And I'm not saying that there should be absolutely no songs which are like not having God, Jesus in them. But just be circumspect into the words of the song. That's another area where there can be a lot of guilt, you know. Yeah.
I think, Karis, that people try in their quest to be inclusive. They err and veer away from their own what's the word? Sorry, help me here. So they basically,
Share.
what's the word
So are
I'm
you talking
looking
about
for?
music so that nobody
Yes,
feels that
yes.
you are looking down on anybody?
They're left out.
Okay. Or
Yes.
left out. Okay.
They don't want anyone to feel left out. So they step away from their own sort of their own comfort moral space. There's a word I'm looking for, but I can't find it. And that happens in other circles as well. And we find that, I say amongst young people, but it could be anybody. So you're on a night out or you're with friends, and there's just getting closer and closer and away from things that you know you shouldn't step into. But do you say no? No, you're crossing the line here at the cost of feeling or
That
appearing
you're a
to
party
be
pooper.
weak or boring. Um, and I did say it's not just young people, because I'm now 40, and I remember hanging out with a friend, and we were having fun. But then as time went on, it was, I wouldn't say it was getting into a state of anything that I would say is immoral per se, but it was just getting too heavy, like Karis would say. And I didn't feel the need to conform and to behave in the manner the person was behaving, because I just felt like this isn't me. I'm not going to pretend that I'm this big party girl, because honestly, I'm not. I'm fun, I'm excited, but I can be quite boring when it comes to certain things as well. And in that moment, I realized just how far I've come. I know that at a certain age, I would have very easily tried to drift into that zone and just want to fit in. So even with birthday parties, guys, I believe that sometimes some parents would just want to include everybody or not appear as though they're being too profane. So they would, open the floor so everyone feels comfortable. By doing so, what are we teaching our children?
That's a very, very good question. We want to take one last song break, and when we come back, we will be wrapping up for the day. You're listening to, watching, you're live on the Life and Grace show on Kristocentric station. Fun without guilt and shame with Karis and Eva. Catch you in a little bit.
Okay, tell us how to get to heaven.
The Bible says if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved.
Finished?
Yep.
Great. I'll read the disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Really nice people can ignore the previous directions to heaven.
That's not true. The Bible says everyone has sinned and needs to be saved.
Everyone?
Everyone.
Well, then you're implying anybody can be saved.
Yes, if they confess Jesus as Lord.
Yeah, but anybody? No disclaimer at all?
Anybody.
But I know some people I'd never let into heaven.
But you aren't the judge. God is. And he's offered heaven to anyone who puts their faith in his son Jesus.
But we need a disclaimer. How about relatives of employees are prohibited from
No.
taxes, license, and dealer?
No.
A limited time offer.
God's offer is good for as long as we live.
Aha! God's offer of heaven is available only while you are breathing.
Fine.
Void where prohibited by law.
Stop that.
Sorry.
Another message from Lifeline Productions, the comic strip of radio at lifelinepro.com.
You keep running after me, you are more than enough. I will put my trust in you, you are more than enough. Every day I need you, cause you are more than enough.
You're listening to
Can't live
Kristocentric
without you,
station.
more than enough. I recommend Jesus, my hope and my defense. I don't change in God. You're not changing what I recommend Jesus, my hope and my defense. I don't change in God. Yes, you paid the price for me. You are more than enough.
Chidima with I Recommend Jesus. Such a beautiful, lovely song. And indeed, we recommend Jesus. If you're listening to us and you're wondering the things we talked about, how you can have that joy, how you can have that lightness of spirit. And it's not that bad things don't happen. That's not what we're saying. Both Eva and I have gone through loss, different kinds of loss before. But even in the midst of that, there is hope. And when the season passes for mourning, because there is a time for mourning, we then get back and we're able to be joy-filled. Now, happiness, happenings, yes, that's one level. But joy is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. Therefore, we recommend Jesus, because in John chapter 10 verse 10 it says, the thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. But I, Jesus talking of himself, I have come that they may have life and that they might have it more abundantly. Joy-filled, excessive, full life in abundance. So if you're listening to us or you're watching us today and you're wondering about this whole thing of fun and guilt, and you're wondering what are the barriers, what do I do, how do I begin to have fun, which is wholesome and wonderful, we recommend Jesus. Start from there, accepting him in your life, and the Holy Spirit will direct you as to what to do, when to do, and what not to do. But a lot of it is what to do fully. Eva.
I love what you said, Karis. Wholesome fun. This scripture here puts it very nicely. Proverbs 17:22. It says, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones." And so this just to emphasize just how important it is to have a merry heart. And it's so important to find and connect with those things that make you happy. We're talking about you, not I know that as parents or spouses or sister, brother, sometimes we engage in things that make other people happy, or it's just something that you have to attend. But is it something you enjoy? Have you actually found that one thing or those things that are unique to you that make you happy? And if you haven't yet, it would be great to go on that journey to discover them, so that you will find that, start to bring out that joy and that mirror in your own life. It'll be great.
Fun without guilt and shame has been today's topic on the Life and Grace Show. It's been awesome having you. Please join us next week. Like, share the link, as they say. Share the link. Let people also learn a little bit and join us. We'll definitely give you some lines, God willing, next week that you can reach us through. We're grateful for having you. My name is Karis.
Mine is Eva.
Catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dispatch, this is Delta 15. I pulled over a possible 10851, white female, driving a light blue SUV. Appears very agitated. Please be advised I'm approaching the vehicle now.
Why did you stop me? I didn't do anything. It was that moron up there who pulled in front of me. He didn't even use his turn signal.
Ma'am, please keep your hands in plain sight and hand me your license. Slowly.
Fine. Here.
Mrs. Smith, and your vehicle registration?
What for? I didn't do anything wrong.
Your registration, please.
Oh, hang on. Let me find it. Here.
Oh, I see you own this vehicle.
Of course I own this car. Why did you pull me over?
You have a Jesus is Lord and a WWJD bumper sticker on your car. When I saw you yelling obscenities and such at that other driver, I naturally assumed the car was stolen. My mistake. Have a nice day.
Do people see Jesus in you? Another message from Lifeline Productions, located on the web at lifelinepro.com.
Well, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. Whatever's in store for me, it's gonna be nice. It's crazy right now, Lord, but that's when you shine. I can't start shouting, knowing it's gonna be nice. Well, you never promised me that my days would be problem-free. But you did promise to always take care of me. Right now it seems that my troubles will never end. I know you promised to be my closest friend, and it's gonna be nice.
It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice.
Whatever you got in store for me, Lord, Lord.
It's gonna be nice.
It's crazy.
It's crazy right now, Lord, but that's when you shine. I can't start shouting.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be nice.
Well, I gotta remind myself daily who lives inside of me. And when I stay close to you, close to me, you're gonna be. No more crying about my situation. I know what I gotta do. I gotta pray, gotta trust, gotta believe. Depend on you.
It's gonna be nice.
It's gonna be nice.
It's gonna be nice.
Whatever you got for me,
Whatever's in store for
it's gonna be
me.
nice.
It's gonna be
It
nice.
seems crazy right now.
It's crazy right now,
But I know
Lord,
you
but
shine
that's
in
when
the
you
midst of
shine.
it. Lord,
I can't start shouting.
I'm gonna shout right now.
It's gonna be nice.
For 24/7 soul edifying content, this is Kristocentric.